Welcome back, folks, to another episode of Jamin's Daily. Today, we're going to talk about Swamp Thing, 1982, directed by Wes Craven. Before he did Nightmare on Elm Street in 1982, he does Swamp Thing. And that's what really caught my attention on Tubi. I'm on Tubi trying to find some old school B classic to watch, and I found it here, Swamp Thing. So, folks, you see the cool movie poster? There's Swamp Thing. There's the damsel in distress, and we just have to admire this poster because I'm going to tell you now, one of the main reasons for watching this movie is Adrienne Barbeau. Okay, the damsel in distress. Now, she actually doesn't even wear, she's not even wearing a dress like this throughout the movie at all. She's actually fairly modestly dressed throughout the movie. But what is apparent fairly soon is that, and what's apparent in this movie poster is that she is an attractive woman with a nice figure, and you're gonna see in the movie they play to that, which is one of the things I'm gonna get to on how I feel like Swamp Thing. It's almost criminal that they haven't rebooted Swamp Thing. Of all the things that they can reboot and reimagine, all the things that they can reimagine, they haven't reimagined a reboot Swamp Thing. And I'm not down for the reimagine. They can just reboot it though, because Swamp Thing now, it's the type of movie that needs the CGI, like Venom. You know, you can't, in what you see in the 1982 version. Let's see if we can find some photos. There we go. Let's get into some photos. You can see, you know, a little bit of what was going on. You actually see some of the movie here. Let's zoom in a little bit. So here's Adrienne Barbeau. There you see, there's the Swamp Thing creature, you know, the Swamp Thing actual. He's wearing some kind of suit. The movie, the reboot would be, he would be all CGI, of course, so that he could do cool things. Because in the movie, there's certain scenes where they illustrate his strength and they're doing things, but it is so limited. This is why they were not all kinds of superhero. There weren't a bunch of superhero movies done in the 80s because the technology and the CGI just wasn't there to do it justice. It is now. And why they haven't done Swamp Thing yet, I don't know. But you can see here. Here's Swamp Thing to the right. You see that costume he's wearing is terrible. You can see, let's see here. There's the sequel with some blonde. Let's see. Oh, there's some more images of him, of the costume. There it is again. It was, I mean, there are parts of the movie where it's just terrible. It's just lame. Like, it's obvious he's wearing a fairly cheesy. It looks like here in the sequel, The Return of the Swamp Thing, they make him a little bit more swampier and it looks a little cooler. But in the original, look, that's what he's wearing in the original. Here's this Barbeau girl, lady. She was a woman, a grown-ass woman in this movie. You can see here, though, she played, her claim to fame was she played Rizzo in Grease on Broadway. But let's see if there she is right there again. These are all different. I guess she is wearing that at some point. And so you can see here, folks, my friends at home, people at home here, you can see And when I Googled her at one point, I was like, who's this Bridget Barbeau? Or who's this Adrienne Barbeau lady? Let's see what she's been in. And when I Googled her, there were some really interesting photos. Let's see. There she is. So again, remember, she played Rizzo. Look at some of this. You know, there she is with Swamp Thing. There she is doing these other things. There's some other ones. I mean, she was always, she had certain assets that she was able to get across. Okay? Look at her right there. Talk about a freaking gorgeous woman. All right? Here's some other other photos of her. She ended up marrying, when I was looking her up, she ended up marrying, how do you, that's such a tough word to say, marrying. So she, at this point, when she does the Swamp Thing, she's like 40 at this point. And in the 80s, she did multiple movies in the horror genre. Okay, so here she is working with Wes Craven. Well, then later on, she works with John Carpenter, ends up marrying him and having kids. Okay, John Carpenter of the whole Halloween fame. Okay, so that's Bridget Barbeau, and really, perhaps the number one reason for watching this movie, folks. But moving on, let's see what's next. We had Bridget Barbeau. Let's see. So let's look into the Swamp Thing. So the Swamp Thing is a 1982 superhero horror film written and directed by Wes Craven, based on the Vertigo DC comic character of the same name created by Len Wein and Bernie Wrightson. It tells the story of a scientist, Alec Holland, played by Ray Wise, who becomes transformed into a monster known as the Swamp Thing through laboratory sabotage orchestrated by the evil Anton Arcane. Later, he helps a woman named Alice Cable, Adrienne Barbeau, and battles the men responsible for it all, the ruthless Arcane. The film did well on home video and cable and was followed by a sequel, The Return of Swamp Thing, in 1989. So I'm going to go through the plot real quick, folks, so that you know, and you heard it here first on Jamin's Daily. Make sure to find us on Facebook and on YouTube. Go to YouTube, subscribe. Go to Facebook, like, and share. After a scientist is mysteriously killed while assisting a top-secret bioengineering project, government worker Alice Cable arrives at the bogs to serve as his replacement. Alice immediately notices that one of the team's swamp sensors has malfunctioned. Harry Ritter reveals that his predecessor was attempting to repair it when he was killed. Charlie tells Ritter a rumor about an evil paramilitary leader named Anton Arcane who intends to hijack their operation. Alice introduces herself to Dr. Linda Holland and her brother, lead scientist, Dr. Alec Holden, who takes her on a tour and encourages her to admire the beauty of the swamps. Later on in his movies, you know it's done in the 80s because this Alec Holland, who ends up turning into the Swamp Thing, there's like this love, this little love interest that Dr. Holland has for Alice from the beginning, because obviously she's an attractive woman. But then later on, he ends up, when they like have this breakthrough, the scientific breakthrough, and they're all happy, he ends up kissing her. And at first it's kind of like a shock, but then she's kind of into it too. And it's like this weird, like, you can't do that in 2023 nowadays. It just seemed weird. But this is me watching it with the lens of 2023, not 1980 something. And in 1980 things were better in 1982, if you ask me. But moving on, soon after, because they make this great discovery, that's when the evil bad guys come and try to steal it. and they blow up his laboratory, and he turns into the Swamp Thing. Okay, and what I was thinking, and what's come again, I can't understand why they haven't rebooted this. It's so perfect for rebooting CGI to make an awesome Swamp Thing. They can recast, there's so many people who could play Alice Cable. Sky's the limit. Pick, then to do the doctor who plays Swamp Thing. I see multiple, I see three or, 2 or 3 movies at least for Swamp Thing. And if they make it, like if I was the director, if you make it kind of campy, humorous as well. And like in this one, here's this, look at the movie poster. Here's this woman, like I would, cast a big busted, like try to stay in and make it campy with a damsel who fits the caricature of sorts, kind of make it over the top. And it would sell. I would even suggest that you make it rated R. So in this Swamp Thing, I think it was rated R. There's nudity. Okay, folks? The theatrical release. Adrienne Barbeau, Alice Cable, at one point, bathes herself in the swamp. And you get to see her breasts in all their glory. Okay, there's a reason why this is in the movie. Okay, and there's a reason why in all the photos, this is one of the things you kind of see, right? So, it's kind of her calling card, and it's a great one. I mean, it's a sight to behold, and she's a great actress. The movie is good. She's the main reason to watch it, but there's a lot of other cool parts of the movie, and they reboot it. There's, I think, a lot of ways to make it really good and successful. And one of them could be to make it rated R and maybe have some nudity. Pay homage to the original. One of the things that kind of bugs me, because I've heard in interviews of Marvel writers and producers on the Marvel stuff, talking about how they went out of their way to not, pay homage to the comics or not feed in, use the lore as such. They wanted to redo, they wanted to create their own thing because they knew that's what would bring in the masses, not just the comic book fans. But I feel like with Swamp Thing, they could do well by trying to recapture the 80s, make it nostalgic, maybe even make the setting in the 80s. And the setting, again, yeah, you shoot the movie, but the settings in the 80s, kind of like a Stranger Things appeal. But, that's just me. I'm just a guy on the internet giving my opinion, So if you like it, if you want to see Swamp Thing, DC property, DC character, it can't be any worse than the Justice League, okay? Seriously, DC needs to. It would be 10 times better than Black Adam. All right, it just would be. Nobody gives a crap or knows who Black Adam was. Really, too much. Not even Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, could make that movie successful. All right, Swamp Thing, I think, could be a huge hit. I'm getting behind it right now, folks. You heard it first on Jamin's Daily. Stick with me because not only is the best yet to come, but I'm going to watch the return of Swamp Thing that was done in 1989. And I'm going to do another video as well. We're going to do several videos, Swamp Thing. Okay, folks, so stay tuned and stick with me because the best is yet to come.